Hey there. Boy, you're looking tired. You must be exhausted because you've been running through my mind all day. Yes, that is a cheesy pickup line. Might make you laugh, might make you go, oh, that's creepy, and click off the podcast. But this is Don the Idea Guy, and I was driving to my office this morning, and the idea for a podcast has been running through my mind for quite a while, and I really couldn't come up with a title, and then I realized that was the title, running through my mind. I've tried to recruit some friends and family to do a co-hosted podcast for a while, and I can't get anybody to commit. I was willing to do one by myself, but it seemed kind of weird to be talking to myself, just not quite that used to staring at a microphone or staring at the mic on my phone and talking to myself. And that was going to be a potential name for the podcast as well, talking to myself, because I have no idea if anybody's going to listen to this. But then as I was in the midst of my commute and I was thinking about the things I needed to do today, the projects I owed people, the projects I wanted to put into action, the ideas that were coming into my brain from the podcast I was listening to. Thanks, Jason Zook and your Action Army podcast and your By My Future podcast. Very helpful. Also thinking about lessons in recent books that I've read or the audiobooks I've listened to that I wanted to put into action, and kind of making that list and basically running through the list in my mind of the things I wanted to do. And I thought that might be a good topic for a podcast. It would certainly help me. It might help some of the people who decide to listen, but it will be kind of, for me, my audio to-do list. Just a way for me to recap the things that I needed to work on today, the things I wanted to keep in my mind today, goals and priorities for the day and the week, and just kind of do that as an ongoing basis. So I don't know if this will be a daily podcast. It might be kind of cool to do a podcast episode on the way to work during that commute and kind of talk about the things that are on my mind, and then maybe do part 2 on the commute home and talk about the things that I accomplished or the new concepts that were in my head. So I'm going to play with this idea, but I like the name, running through my mind. I think that will be the name. A couple of things sparked this. One, Jason Zook is getting ready to relaunch his Buy My Future again. He did this about a year ago. He got a bunch of people to buy his future. They get rights to everything that he produces from here on out for the rest of his life. And he decided to open that back up here in the next week for more people. And I'm going to help promote that. More details as that comes up. But Jason has another podcast called The Action Army, and that's all about taking ideas and putting them into action. Jason is absolutely an idea guy, but he is also an action guy. And sometimes I tend to lean more towards the idea and less towards the action. I know that's a weakness on my end that I need to work on. Something else that's running through my mind. And I also completed listening to the audiobook called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I'm not a huge fan of Grant Cardone, but I actually listened to this book back to back, and primarily the lesson I pulled out of that, my goal, it's a 10x rule. I listened to it 2x, so I'm going to listen to it 8x more. But the huge point that I pulled out of there is have a bias for action, in that you have an idea. In his terms, he's a sales trainer, so he's referring everything to sales. But you wanted to call that client, just pick up the phone. Don't get ready. Don't write out the script. Don't look up their title. Don't research. Just pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, call them. Don't even know what you're going to say. Dive in, unprepared kind of a thing. And that can be a little scary, is the first thing that runs through my mind. But the other is, I've always had the best success when I just dove in. I don't need to know what I'm going to say immediately. I need a little nugget to start a conversation. I need an idea of where I want to take the conversation. If possible, I have to have an idea of how I'm going to help them. But I'm the idea guy. I got lots of those. I come up with those on the fly all the time. The problem is taking the next step and putting it into action. So taking a page from Cardone's 10X rule, taking a page from Jason Zook's Action Army, and when I came up with the idea for the running through my mind podcast. I got it out of my mind. I'm doing this in the car, in the parking lot, before I walk into the office for the day. So that is the first episode. What was running through my mind for months was to do a podcast. Just open the mic and start talking. That's what I did today. First episode, in the can. It is done. That's action. I'll talk to you later today, maybe. Definitely tomorrow. And we'll talk about more things that are running through my mind. This has been Don the Idea Guy. If you want more information on me or some of the ideas that I am putting into action, visit dontheideaguy.com.